Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Throne of Steel 2 episode number 5 based on novel. So let's start. The old dean said, "Let us welcome teacher Na with warm applause." The applause sounded sparsely. Go Night Nay's appearance was really not pleasing in front of the teenagers. Na didn't care about it, and said with a smile, "Hi everyone, my name is Na. Well, from now on, you have to be mentally prepared. The first grade will be different because of my arrival. This weekend the break will be cancelled, and there will be a 2-day overall assessment for the first grade." When they heard that the weekend break was cancelled, the students were in an uproar. Na raised his hand with a smile, and made a gesture of virtual pressing. Immediately, everyone present, including the teachers, felt an invisible pressure coming, and the audience suddenly fell silent. The students are okay, they don't know what's going on, but if they can become the teachers of the temple college, they are at least full members of the temple, and their eyes suddenly look strong. Is this grade leader? Na continued, "It's not for nothing to let everyone assess. The academy will give rewards and punishments based on the assessment results. Rewards are elemental crystals that assist cultivation. You can use the points in the assessment to exchange for attributes. As for punishment, it is naturally cultivation. Time increases. Because this is the first assessment, I will talk about the content of the assessment in advance today. This weekend, you will be taken to an area, and each of you will have your own college badge. No matter what method you use, every badge you get, plus 1 point. At the end, those who can keep at least 5 points are qualified. In addition to the 5 points, every 10 points can be exchanged for a small piece of elemental crystal. The value of this thing is not if you know, you can ask your class teacher when you go back. In this assessment, there is another benefit announced to everyone. The badges of the Magic class, the Dragon class, and the Knight class, worth points. In the next 5 days, except outside of normal practice, you can prepare for the weekend exam. During the exam, weapons and any equipment are not allowed. What the hell? 1 point for everyone else, 100 points for my 2 brothers. Many people have only heard of the genius brothers Long Dangdang and Long Kongkong, but after all, they have only been enrolled for a week, and the only ones who know them are there this time. Even the classmates looked at them with strange eyes. Pit, too bad. Long Kongkong looked at the stage with dull eyes. You are not a dog knight, you are a pit knight? Just listening to the stage, Na continued to add, in view of the outstanding talents of Long Dangdang and Long Kongkong, they need to obtain points each to pass the test. Points can be exchanged for elemental crystals. What are elemental crystals? Ordinary students may not really so-called elemental crystals are actually some ores with elemental properties, and the value of elemental crystals with different purity is even the most common. Elemental crystals are not cheap. In the is the best supplement for all professionals to can practice without elemental crystals, but with elemental crystals, the speed of cultivation will definitely be accelerated. Among all the elemental crystals, the most valuable one is naturally the light elemental. It is the most widely used. Next, the teacher told some precautions for almost all the new students' attention was focused on the upcoming is not an easy task to pass the examination. Earn at least 5 classmate means that the vast majority of students failed. I haven't said what the punishment is now, but additional training will definitely not be a wonderful thing. As soon as the collective meeting was over, Long Kongkong ran to Long Dangdang like flying, and said with a mournful face, "Brother, what should we do? If we fail the assessment, the old man will definitely not let us go." Long Dangdang said angrily, "What are you panicking about? Go back and talk about it at night." While speaking, he winked at him. "Isn't it? Now the attention of the entire first grade is almost on them. This is 100 points, those are 10 elemental would have too much of a good thing." Perhaps because he sensed the crisis, after this day's study, Long Kongkong was not lazy, and he was still serious about his. Soon as school was over, he rushed to the dormitory area on the Magic Academy side. The door of the dormitory was ajar, and Long Kongkong pushed the door open and walked in. As soon as he entered, he was taken aback, for the living room, Long Dangdang was raising his right hand, and above the index finger of his right hand, a small golden ball of light was shining brightly. "This is?" Long Kongkong just had a question when he saw the secretive smile on Long Dangdang's face. He knew his black-bellied brother too well, so he turned around and ran towards the door. But it's too late. With a sound of whoosh, the small ball of light had already arrived in front of Kongkong. Raised his hand completely subconsciously. Perhaps stimulated by the crisis, he actually completed the communication with the shield in the storage ring in an instant. With a flash of light, the shield has appeared in front of him. With a poof, the ball of light shattered on the surface of the shield, and the impact caused Long Kong Kong to take 2 steps back, almost falling to the physical exercise these days has not been in golden light splashed, but quickly extinguished, making the light in the room a bit dim. You murdered! Long Kong Kong screamed strangely. Murder what? Aren't you wearing inner armor? Long Dang Dang said angrily. Only then did Long Kong Kong remember that he was wearing the subsidized inner armor given by the Night Temple, right? Don't you have inner armor? However, looking at the shield in his hand, he suddenly felt that he could really communicate with the items in the storage ring. Are you using light magic? Long Kong Kong asked curiously. Long Dang Dang nodded. I just successfully experimented with the first-order magic light bullet. The Archangel's embrace of Senior Yi helped me recover the consumption I had when absorbing the holy spiritual stove. My spiritual power is sufficient now. It should be overall. I should be able to cast first-order and second-order magic. However, I have to keep trying to communicate with the elements. The corner of Long Kong Kong's mouth twitched. It's only been a week since he entered school. While other students are still figuring out how to sense elements, my brother can already use low-level magic. Is this the benefit of being gifted? What about the assessment? Long Kong Kong asked with a sad face. What's the rush? There must be a way for the car to reach the mountain. Long Dang Dang smiled lightly. Long Kong Kong said angrily, of course you are not in a hurry. You have the Holy Lotus Spirit Stove, and no one can touch you. You can always find a way to get some points. What should I do? All weapons and equipment are not allowed to be used. Our class, any male classmate can beat me to the ground. You are stupid. Why are you fighting with the students in your class? Have you forgotten what the old man taught us before? When encountering a problem, try to unite all the forces that can be united. By the way, since Senior Yi he came, didn't he say how to teach us? I think he set up this assessment to put some pressure on us. Let us learn from him. That's only a few days away, and it's too late to learn now. Long Kong Kong still had an ugly expression. What are you afraid of if you don't have time? If you don't work this time, there will be a next time. Failure is the mother of success. Haven't you heard it? A lazy voice. Next moment, both brothers felt that the Holy Knight Nae had already appeared in front of them. Hello, Senior. Long Dang Dang hurriedly saluted, but Long Kong Kong sat down on the sofa in the living room. Don't you even salute when you see the teacher? Nae said angrily. Long Kong Kong rolled his eyes. Do you still know that you are my teacher? Is there anyone who deceives his disciples like this? Nae said lightly, I will give you a pressure first, and then I will give you the motivation to learn. Solve your own problems by yourself. If you want to really grow up, you need to maintain a sense of urgency at all times. I will teach you 3 tricks. If you learn well, you will have a chance to pass the test. Long Kong Kong said, can you learn it in a week? Nae glanced at him and said, Dang Dang is almost the same, it's a bit difficult for you. Long Kong Kong seemed to think of something suddenly. Teacher. Let's discuss something. Nae looked at him suspiciously, and said, what's the matter? Long Kong Kong said, how many times did your Archangel's embrace come that day? I can feel that the energy absorbed by my vortex that day was more than I slept before. No, the combined spiritual energy obtained during the few days of meditation, there are many strengths. I estimate that from 10 points to 15 points, 4 points are added by your Archangel's embrace. If you give me dozens of times, maybe I will directly follow my brother. The talents are the same. Betty Chi put his hands on his hips. Brat, you just want to get something for nothing. Don't say that the Archangel's embrace is not so easy to use. It is to consume my source of light. Even if it can be used, you think it can still be so good every time. The effect? The reason why the effect is good that day is because the first contact has the effect of changing your tendons and washing your marrow. Even if you are an idiot, there will be some changes in your body when you come to the embrace of an archangel. Your own talent is low, and your innate spiritual power it's normal to increase a little more. In fact, the Yuan Vortex Spirit Stove can increase you by 1 or 2 points at most. You feel right about this. If you use it again, it won't have that effect. At most, it's better than your meditation. Long Kong Kong said, then if I come 100 or 80 times a day, will I be able to speed up my talent improvement? What are you dreaming about? All the holy knights in the Knight's Temple can't use the Archangel's embrace so many times a day. Don't try to play tricks, you'll be fine if you don't practice, just wait for the weekend assessment to lose face. Once you are exposed, your parents I don't care about that side. I pretended to be an imposter in the temple college and cheated the spiritual furnace, which is enough for the two of them to be arrested and sent to the court. Isn't it? Long Kong Kong said in surprise. Nae snorted coldly, why not? What is your spirit stove? You two just took it for nothing? Okay, I'll just learn it. Long Kong Kong stood up drooping. All I teach you are basic skills. Today I will teach you the first trick, sliding step. Nae said. Sliding steps. Is this so? Long Kong Kong rubbed his right foot on the ground and took a step to the side. Nae said disdainfully, you call this a slippery step? You come and catch me. Long Kong Kong was not polite. He turned around and rushed towards that leaf. He was about to jump on him. Ha ha, I caught you, ah. The next moment, he felt a blur in front of his eyes, and the leaf in front of him seemed to disappear out of thin air, and it suddenly directly to the ground. Long Dang Dang was watching from the side, but even as a bystander, he didn't see it clearly. He just felt that he seemed to have teleported, and his body moved 3 feet in an instant, and then Long Kong Kong flew into the air. Ignoring Long Kong Kong, who was lying on the ground screaming in pain, Nae said, sliding steps may seem simple, but for knights it is an extremely important basic ability. It is very practical for both offensive and defensive ends. The real sliding step, the first thing to do is to be unexpected, so that the opponent cannot judge your behavior. Therefore, when sliding, the upper body should not change in any way, the body should be as stable as possible, and even the eyes should not change. Otherwise, the opponent will easily follow your eyes. The direction you look judges your actions. The power of the sliding step is mainly in the combination of the calf muscles and the ligaments of the soles of the feet. You can even change the direction through the different forces of the toes. 2 calves, 2 feet, are the root of the sliding step. What you have to do, it is to be clear about every muscle on the soles of the feet and calves, and to be able to use them flexibly and cooperate with each other. Only in this way can the sliding step be brought into full play. When it is done to the extreme, it can continuously change direction in an instant and let the opponent uncertain. As he spoke, Nae's body moved instantly. As he said, he didn't seem to be making any gestures at all, but his body flickered and turned continuously in the room, like an uncertain wind, light and floating. When the speed is getting faster and faster, there are even after images in the room, as if many leaves were copied in a flash, and it is impossible to distinguish which one is real and which one is fake. There's something. Old man. Long Kong Kong couldn't help but become more interested when he saw sliding step can actually be done like a clone technique. Snapped. Hey, why are you hitting me on the head again? It's not big or small, who will you hit if you don't hit me? Nae angrily pulled Long Dang Dang and Long Kong Kong to him respectively. Close your eyes and feel carefully. I'll let you feel every muscle that you need to use when sliding. The warm current came from the palm of that leaf, injected into the bodies of the 2 people respectively, and soon spread to their legs. The muscles of the calf are mainly divided into posterior, lateral, and anterolateral muscle groups. The posterior muscles are mainly composed of superficial gastrocnemius and soleus muscles, and their tendinous tissues form the Achilles tendon to the posterior side of the calcaneus. The deep muscles include posterior tibialis, flexor digitorum longus, and flexor hallucis longus. The tendinous tissue of these muscles passes through the medial malleolus and ends at the sole and toes, and plays the role of toe flexion and foot inversion. Lateral muscles. The main group is the peroneus longus and brevis, which stop at the bottom of the foot to stabilize the foot eversion. The anterolateral muscle group is mainly the third peroneus, extensor digitorum longus, and tibialis anterior. It controls the dorsiflexion of the toes and eversion of the foot. Along with Nae's narration, the heat flow injected into the 2 people's bodies began to appear at the muscle positions he said respectively, so that both brothers could clearly feel it, and Nae's voice was more like a magic sound pouring into the brain. It is deeply engraved in their spiritual will, and with the guidance of spiritual power, the memory is clear. The muscles of the foot are divided into 2 parts, the dorsalis of the foot and the plantar muscles of the foot. Nae's teachings were definitely new to Long Dang Dang and Long Kong Kong. Spiritual power guidance and spiritual memory. After guiding all the spiritual power once, they had already clearly remembered the calf and foot took less than a quarter of an hour before and after. This is the strength of the 9th level Holy Knight as a teacher. He doesn't need to talk nonsense with you at all, and he doesn't need to make you memorize what he wants you to remember. Engraved in the minds of the 2 brothers, coupled with the actual control of spiritual guidance, the memory was quickly completed. Next, I will teach you how to develop strength. There are many types of sliding steps, such as side sliding, forward sliding, backward sliding, and the most important thing is long sliding and short sliding. You should practice these 6 sliding steps first. In the future, if you add spiritual power to complete it, then the sliding step will be considered as an entry. Teacher, when will we be able to reach the level you just performed? Longsheng asked curiously. Nae pouted, if you can do it in 10 years, you are considered excellent. Of course he wouldn't tell the 2 brothers that as a dog knight, he was definitely number 1 in the Knight Temple in terms of sliding steps. That's right, the kind that even the God-sealed knights couldn't compare is the essence of sliding. Put oil on the soles of your feet and get away. The way to practice sliding is also simple. Nae teaches the 2 brothers to exert strength while letting them chase each other. During the chasing process, only sliding can be. There is something wrong with exerting force, point it out to them immediately, and at the same time guide them with spiritual power. Both brothers are very smart. For their age, when they are interested in something, they tend to learn. Nae's surprise. In terms of sliding, Longsheng's talent was higher than that of Longdangdang, and he was still shouting, I'm sliding, I'm sliding. After an hour, he had already surpassed the basic sliding steps. Practiced like a decent. When Longdangdang was still a little sluggish here, Longsheng already felt that he was running freely. Nae was not surprised by this. It was a normal situation, because the master-student concentric master-student status established by contract is not that passing on. Generally speaking, what the master is good at is much easier for the apprentice to learn under the influence of the contract. Among the holy knights, Nae only has 2 abilities, one of which is his contract disciple. Longsheng learned it so easily that even he himself felt as if he had become practicing for 2 hours. When Longdangdang's sense of stagnation gradually disappeared, Longsheng was able to slide around the whole room and basically no longer touch the furniture. It surpassed Longdangdang, and obviously by a lot, which made Longsheng visibly excited. After 2 hours, he never tired of. He didn't point it out. My disciple was born with poor spiritual power, so if I don't build up some confidence for him, how can I teach him? In fact, he was secretly surprised by Longdangdang. This child did not have his own master-student inheritance, but after such 2 hours, he was already decent. This talent is placed in the main hall of the Knight's Temple. The side is definitely the object of everyone's competition. Okay, that's all for today. Continue tomorrow night. Kong, take me back to your dormitory. I want to observe your state of meditation. Oh. Stop practicing. What do you think of my skating? With a whoosh, Longsheng slid in front of Nae and stopped steadily half a foot in front of him. You are still far away. Practice hard. Nae dragged him out of the door. Watching them try to leave, Longdangdang didn't take a rest immediately, but carefully recalled the knowledge about sliding steps that he described earlier. The more he practiced, the more he felt the importance of this basic knight. A magician, the biggest problem is that the body is fragile. What a magician fears most is being approached by an opponent. If I can practice this sliding step well, then it will be much more difficult for the opponent to get close, and I will definitely have more space to cast. You must learn this ability. Brother can do it, so can't I do it myself? If I can't reach my brother's level tonight, I won't sleep. Anyway, if you meditate for an hour, you should be able to restore your spirits. After leaving Longdangdang's dormitory, Longsheng seemed unable to stop. He slid forward for a while, slid backwards for a while, and slid 2 steps sideways for a while. It was a joy to slide. Nae ignored him. He knew very well that at Longsheng's age, especially his lazy character, arousing his interest was the most important. No matter how much it is imposed on him, he will not be able to learn that what I was back then, if it wasn't for the teacher to use the little junior sister. A touch of sadness flashed in his eyes. Looking at Longsheng in front of him, it was as if he had seen his former self. After calming down last night, he has gradually accepted this disciple. Of course, the main reason is that he can't accept it. He already has a master-student agreement which cannot be more. When he saw Longsheng for the first time, he had a kind feeling. The boy's lazy temperament really resembled him, but he was much more indulgent than when he was a child. At least he didn't dare to call the teacher old man. I'm sliding, I'm slippery. Old man, oh, no, teacher, do you think my sliding is getting better and better? Does it feel a little smooth? Nae said lightly, you have just started. Sliding steps not only need skill, but also precision. When facing the enemy, you need to know exactly where you should swipe, otherwise you just need to be fast, but it doesn't work, so what's the use? I see, isn't this the first day? Longsheng said carelessly. Back in the dormitory, Longsheng slid down and refused to stop until he was caught by Nae. Sit down and meditate. Oh. Long Kong Kong sat down on the bed, and Nei was about to sit down behind him, but Long Kong Kong suddenly said, "Teacher, can you take a bath first? How long has it been since you took a bath? The oil on the hair can be used for cooking." The corners of Nei's mouth twitched, and he thought about what he said, vomit. Seeing that she actually went to the bathroom to take a shower, Long Kong Kong blinked his eyes. The intimacy brought by the contract, coupled with the sense of accomplishment of skating today, made him feel a little more fond of this moment. When he calmed down, he really felt a little tired, so he leaned against the head of the bed and closed his eyes, thinking in his heart, he would just meditate when the old man came back. And when Nei came back from the shower, looking at the kid who was lying on the bed and his nose was starting to bubble, he almost slapped him. Shaking his head helplessly, he really is a carefree age. How about today's meditation, let him sleep? Just as Nei was thinking of this, suddenly, his expression changed, and he subconsciously looked at Long Kong Kong's faint golden halo began to rippling from his chest, an obvious suction force began to appear, and the heaven and earth energy in the air began to converge towards him. Nei's heart shuddered. Yuan Vortex spiritual stove. Does it work while asleep, even if you don't meditate specifically? Just as he felt that day, the Yuan Vortex spiritual stove on Long Kong Kong's body has completely overturned his original understanding of this kind of spiritual stove. After pondering for a while, Nei quietly released her own spiritual power, causing the light elements in the air to increase significantly. And with the release of his light element, the absorption effect of the Yuan Vortex spiritual stove on Long Kong Kong's chest became obviously better, and even Long Kong Kong's expression began to become more faint. Golden halo was continuously absorbed into his body. Nei raised her hand to press on his lower abdomen, silently feeling the changes in his body. The aura of heaven and earth absorbed into Long Kong Kong's body is rapidly transforming, and a large part of it is immersed in Long Kong Kong's body. However, these auras do not have any elemental attributes. Even if they absorb light elements, they are also absorbed, filtered and transformed into non-attribute spiritual power to accumulate in his body. Nei's heart moved. He still remembered that Long Kong Kong had said before that during the test of magic and spiritual power, none of the statues of elemental spirits lit up. For no, this is an extremely rare situation, because even if the talent is not good, it will generally have the corresponding attributes of the body, but the brightness is not. Is very rare for him to have no element recognition. It shows that there are only two situations. One is that there is really no element that recognizes him, and the other is that the element that recognizes him does not exist. In the magic latter is of course highly. If it's the former, does it mean that he doesn't have any element attributes? Thinking of this, Nei suddenly realized a problem. The reason why the Yuan Vortex spirit stove worked so well on Long Kong Kong might not just be because of his innate low spiritual power, but also because of his non-attribute. After all, the elemental energy transformed by the spirit stove of Yuan Vortex has no attributes. Those non-attribute energies are silently improving Long Kong Kong's physique, and almost all the energy inhaled into his body has been integrated into his body, nourishing his strong is that leaf. The entry threshold for a 9th level holy knight is a total of spiritual perception of spiritual power is extremely keen. Even without the test stone to try, he can still feel that Long Kong Kong's innate internal spiritual power is improving. This is to say, the improvement of his innate attributes by Yuan Vortex spirit stove is not random, but continues to exist, even if the speed will not be very fast, but as long as it continues, will his talent be poor? Is it okay to have no attributes? Changing to a professional with a lower cultivation base will definitely answer that it is not without attributes, there is no additional attribute. For knights, without the light attribute, even many skills cannot be used. But in Nei's view, it is not necessarily bad. No attribute means that there is no attribute barrier, and equipment with any attribute can be used. He has no attribute himself, and the equipment has attributes. Then, when using it, the equipment is what attribute he can release after injecting spiritual or even no attribute restrictions when using elemental. Knight skills do not all rely on light elements. Without light elements, it is nothing more than less. There is no need for the magician to think about it. I am afraid that he will never be able to condense even a little s more. No attribute can restrain any attribute, but no attribute can restrain no attribute. Therefore, if the Yuan Vortex spiritual stove is paired with his body with no attributes and low innate spiritual power, it can finally help him improve his innate spiritual power to a very high level. Wouldn't it be a different kind of talent? He actually lied. Archangel's embrace really has the effect of changing the body of Long Dang Dang, and Long that refers to the nourishment of the body, and it is more manifested in the external spiritual. It is really possible to use the Archangel's embrace to improve the innate inner spiritual power. Then the 6 great temples would already have countless. It may have helped Long Kong Kong's innate inner spiritual power at that time, and that also came from the absorption and transformation of the Yuan Vortex spiritual furnace rather than the direct effect of the Archangel's embrace. Therefore, Longsheng really increased his talent by 5 points through the spiritual SYNAE recognized him. Now that he had thought clearly, he naturally knew better what he should. Concentration of light elements in the dormitory suddenly became intense, making the Yuan Vortex spiritual stove on Longsheng's chest fully activated. This is much better than absorbing the spiritual power of heaven and earth. That leaf is like a large elemental crystal that is directly provided to the Yuan Vortex spiritual furnace to absorb and devour it. While releasing the light element, he also felt the physical condition of Yuan Vortex spiritual stove and Longsheng, ensuring that it could be absorbed to the greatest extent without being used. Only worry now is that the Yuan Vortex spirit stove's ability to improve his talent is limited, and he cannot really improve it to a high enough. This can only be taken one step at a time. So far, the effect is quite good. Early the next morning, while Longsheng was still sleeping soundly, Nei stuffed the test stone into his hand. Innate spiritual power, 16, 2 days, a little more. Early the next morning, on the way to class, Longdangdang felt that his calf was constantly actually practiced until midnight last night, but he still felt that he didn't have the feeling of freedom like his younger brother, and still lacked seemingly simple sliding step is not an easy task to get. The gains are quite. Keep practicing tonight. We continue to study elemental cohesion. I believe that in the past few days, everyone has made some attempts and have some feelings. Today, the teacher will take you one by one to complete an elemental cohesion. I hope everyone can experience it well. To be able to complete elemental condensation by ourselves as soon as possible. This is very important for us magicians. The weekend assessment is actually a disadvantage for us, because everyone has just started to learn magic, and it is difficult to apply it in actual combat. In the middle, after helping everyone to condense the elements, I will tell you how to deal with the next assessment in this situation. Sayu said, standing on the podium. Indeed, the weekend assessment is a disadvantage for the Magic 3 departments, because these freshmen are almost unlikely to complete magic, and for the Warrior 3 departments, they are physically strong, and at least they have external spiritual power to rely on. Come one by one next, monitor. I'll give you a demonstration first. Sayu looked at Longdangdang. Longdangdang, the squad leader, doesn't actually have much sense of presence. He has such a personality, and he doesn't have the publicity of Longsheng. He mainly cultivates by himself. Hearing the teacher calling him, he stood up and walked forward under Sayu's signal. Sayu pulled a stool and signaled Longdangdang to sit down. Wait a while, I will guide you to condense elements through spiritual power. You have to experience it carefully. Okay, thank you, teacher. Longdangdang did not say that he was able to complete the elemental condensation alone. Sayu's eyes became brighter, and she raised her hand to touch the back of Longdangdang's. Longdangdang felt a slight shock in his brain, and seemed to become extraordinarily closed his eyes subconsciously, sensing the surrounding elements through perception. When he sensed it himself, he could only feel some blurred colors, but at this moment, with the help of Sayu, these blurred colors suddenly became clear. In his perception, it seemed that all kinds of colors were mixed together. The colorful light spots are strange and spectacular. You should be able to feel some colors now. These colors are the magical elements that are familiar to you. Try to use your thoughts to guide the brightest color you perceive to gather like you, and stretch out your right hand. Direct these colors toward your right hand. Longdangdang raised his hand according to his words, and in the next moment, a ball of golden light quietly appeared in his palm. The golden light flickered and quickly gathered into a golden light. Students in the class suddenly let out bursts of excited exclamations. Sayu was also slightly taken aback, so fast, in fact, when she tried to connect her mental power with Longdangdang, she found that the mental fluctuations in Longdangdang's mind were not weak, and varied this time, seeing that he condensed the light elements so quickly, and was able to guide the light elements to condense into balls. It was obvious that he already had the ability to condense elements. A genius is a genius. He deserves to be in existence with an innate magic power of more than After practicing for a while, when his magic power exceeds and he masters 3 basic magics, he can become a second-level magic apprentice. Past the stage of the first-order magic attendant. Everyone can see, this is the condensation of magic elements. You should also try to do this in the future. Longdangdang has done a very good job of converging the light elements condensed into balls. You can understand the magic elements you condense as plasticine. Generally, it is magic to condense it first, and then control it to deform and use it. The more magic elements you condense, the stronger the plasticity will be. If you can compress to a certain extent when shaping, then its power will increase. Will get bigger. That's the basic theory of magic. While continuing to guide Longdangdang, Yu taught the students, the newly promoted students of the magic department. Today's lesson is very important. It is an important lesson that truly guides them to step into the gate of the magic world. At this moment, Yu's eyes suddenly froze, and the students of magic class, also exclaimed again. On Long Dangdang's palm, where there was only a golden ball of light, another ball of light gradually appeared. This light ball is red, and the air around the light ball is even slightly distorted. Clearly it is the fire element, condensation of the second element. Yu was shocked. Is this the power of elemental blessings? Surprisingly, in just a few days of beginners, you can actually condense the second element. She didn't know that Long Dangdang had experienced the baptism of the Archangel's embrace. Whether it was the body or the sea of spirit, under the effect of the Archangel's embrace, all had undergone reborn changes, and his sensitivity to elements was more sensitive. Under the blessing of spiritual power, it really condensed into the second element. In fact, it wasn't that Long Dangdang deliberately wanted to show off, but that Yu had said before. Let him gather the brightest elements in his perception in the palm of his Long Dangdang's perception. There are 7 elements that are the brightest, and the brightness is about the same. The first is the light element he is most familiar with, and then he condenses the fire element light ball in front of. Spiritual power injected by Yu increased his confidence in supporting him with sufficient spiritual power, and subconsciously guided him, and everything succeeded naturally. This is not over yet, and soon, another blue ball of light condensed on his red and blue 3-color light spheres complement each other, which is extremely gorgeous and beautiful. Yu didn't know what to say anymore. It's nothing to condense 3 elemental energy balls at the same time, as long as the spiritual power is enough. It's not difficult. The problem is, the 3 elemental energy balls he condensed have different attributes. Guidance and cohesion of elements of different attributes requires mental power to be, is why the magic temple prefers to specialize in one. Characteristics of different attribute elements are different. If you are distracted to realize and use it, you must be distracting your own energy. It is not as thorough as studying a single attribute. At this time, 3 elemental energy balls were condensed at the same time, which meant that the current Long Dangdang was using them in 3. It be that I injected spiritual power into him, and the effect is so good. However, mental power is one thing, but mental control and elemental affinity is no doubt that the 3 elements in front of him are very friendly to him, especially the 2 opposing elements of water and fire appearing on him alone. And it's not over yet. The next photosphere appeared, which was Earth. Wasn't until this light sphere appeared that the 4 elemental energy spheres began to flicker and were no longer as stable, as showed a state of insufficient mental control. Long Dangdang's brows began to frown tightly, revealing a bit of pain, and sweat gradually began to appear on his expression was still stable. Just when Yu was about to terminate his elemental condensation, suddenly, the 5th light appeared again. Yes, the 5th, cyan light, representing the cyan color of the wind element. When the cyan light ball began to gradually condense into shape, the other 4 elemental energy balls suddenly began to vibrate violently, and became more and more unstable, and Long Dangdang frowned even more tightly. With a wave of Yu's hand, a blue halo quietly appeared beside her, and if she found something wrong, she would take action immediately. However, a scene that shocked her happened. A white light suddenly shot out from Long Kongkong's chest and landed on his right hand. When the white light enveloped the moment, the 5 light spheres immediately became stable under its cover. After he got down, the expression on Long Kongkong's face also relaxed a lot. What's this? For a moment, Yu couldn't even recognize what kind of existence that white light was. At this moment, Long Dangdang had already opened his eyes, and said shyly and ashamedly, "I'm sorry, teacher, I couldn't condense all the brightest elements." Yu stared at him with wide eyes. Can he still talk? Under the condition of controlling the 5 elements, can he still speak? Are you a human? Also, what did he say? Which of the 5 elements is the brightest? How many elements recognized him? Yu regretted it, and regretted calling him up to give a demonstration. After the demonstration is over, how can others come? Knight Academy, Class 1, Grade Class. Each student holds a wooden sword in his hand. As a knight, actual combat is one of the most important parts of our cultivation. No matter how strong your spiritual power is, if your actual combat ability is insufficient, you will not be able to truly display your strength. In this morning's class, you in groups of 2 and 2, one person charges, and the other uses a shield to defend and block, alternating rotations. I will teach you the techniques of charging and blocking respectively. As a knight, charging and blocking are extremely important skills. No matter what level you practice in the future, they can play a very important role in battle, and the skills are ever-changing. What you need to do is to constantly practice and gradually find the best way for you. Start now. Wooden sword, wooden shield. Long Kongkong was naturally in a group with his table-mate, Shifeng. Squad leader, will you come first or should I come first? Shifeng asked with a smile. It's all right. You come first. Although Long Kongkong is tired, he is still a teenager after all. Last night, he learned to slide and surpassed his talented brother, which made him feel so excited now. Then I'm here, be careful. The 2 followed what Wei Hua had taught them before, Keeping a distance of 20, the wooden sword in his hand, Levan Feng rushed towards Long Kong Kong with a loud shout, holding the shield in both hands. Long Kong Kong looked at Shifeng striding towards him. His eyes became more and more excited when Shifeng was about to rush in front of him. He swung the wooden sword in. His young man has a strong figure, half a head taller than Long Kong Kong. His body has been very strong through body training since he was a child, and his external spiritual power has been cultivated to more than 15 this time. When he swung the wooden sword, it was also accompanied by howling winds, and he was in front of Long Kong Kong in an instant. Long Kong Kong didn't panic at all. He was mischievous since he was a child. He was young and had a lot of addition. Before the start of school, I was forced by my father to practice hard at home for a while, and the external spiritual power was also past 10 o'clock. At this time, seeing Shifeng's wooden sword in his hand, he subconsciously slipped only half a foot away. Left and right, body slightly sideways. When the wooden sword slashed, it almost brushed against the wooden shield, making the sound of wood rubbing against each other. Long Kong Kong only felt the wooden shield shake in his hand. Because of the momentum, Shifeng was about to rush past. Could he let go of such a big flaw? The shield pushed forward and hit the side of Shifeng, and Shifeng's forward momentum was suddenly hit by him, causing his center of gravity to become unstable, and he staggered a few steps and fell to the ground. He watched from not far away. Seeing this scene with the corners of his mouth slightly upturned, this brat can be regarded as bold and careful. He dared to use the sliding step he just learned yesterday, and he has a bit of fighting. It is still a little risky. If it is me, I will slide a little bit bigger and completely dodge the opponent's charge. Even if I don't fight, it's best to go around behind the opponent and shield bash the opponent without threatening at all. Shifeng got up from the ground. He didn't see clearly just now, and then he was knocked to the addition. He had preconceived beliefs that Long Kong Kong was born with strong spiritual power. So he immediately gave Long Kong Kong a thumbs up with a look of admiration on his face. Squad leader, you are amazing. Long Kong Kong stepped forward and exchanged weapons with him. Let me charge instead. The two opened up the distance again. Long Kong Kong rushed forward quickly. Shifeng became more cautious because he had just lost to him, squatted down slightly, supported the shield with both hands, and blocked it in front of him. However, the imaginary collision did not appear. The next moment, the back of his head hurt, and Long Kong Kong's voice came from his ear. Your block even blocks your sight. How can you tell where I am attacking from? It turned out that Long Kong Kong saw that Shifeng even covered his head, so he didn't need to slide, so he went around and touched his head with his wooden sword. Kong Kong is right. Don't block your sight when blocking. Otherwise, you won't even be able to judge the opponent's attack direction. How can you block effectively? Wei Hua's voice came. He took the shield in Shifeng's hand, and said in a deep voice, look good. Long Kong Kong, charge at me. Oh. Long Kong Kong stepped back to distance himself, and the other students all looked at him in unison. The teacher is going to demonstrate to the monitor. Long Kong Kong took a big step and rushed towards Wei Hua. Wei Hua held the shield in his right hand and said in a deep voice, when the opponent charges you, the first thing you should pay attention to is to observe his steps to determine his when to exert force. Because when his legs exert force, it means that he is going to speed up and launch an attack. Otherwise, no matter how the upper body moves, it will be a feint. The 20 meters were fleeting, and when he was still 3 meters away from Wei Hua, Long Kong Kong made a sudden sliding step. His feet and calves exerted force at the same time, instantly shortening the distance, and the épée in his hand only slashed Wei Hua. Okay. Wei Hua's eyes lit up, and Long Kong Kong's sliding step instantly exerted strength, which in his opinion was quite good, full of explosiveness and fast enough. Holding the shield with one hand and lifting it up, he took a step forward at the same time, deliberately narrowing the distance between him and Long Kong Kong, so that he could not exert enough force. But at this moment, Long Kong Kong, who was rushing forward, stepped forward with his left foot, but suddenly his right foot landed on the ground. His toes were tilted forward, his left foot was raised, and the whole person changed his feet and changed his direction in a delicate way. The person arrived at the oblique side of Wei Hua, and the heavy sword he swung turned around accordingly, turning to strike sideways, and the speed of this change was extremely fast. However, Wei Hua was a real knight after all. Even if he had to restrain his spiritual power, his reaction speed was extremely fast. He immediately turned his body halfway, with a look of approval in his eyes, and the shield was already blocking the side. With a bang, the wooden sword struck the shield, and immediately, Long Kong Kong felt a strong shock force. Even though Wei Hua didn't use his inner spiritual power, his outer spiritual power was also extremely strong. The strength is also not small. The anti-shock force made Long Kong Kong's chest tight for a while, and he let out a muffled groan, but at this moment, he only felt a sudden heat in his chest, and a suction force came, as if to make him. It seemed as if the painful shock force was absorbed in an instant. Not only did the tight chest feel relieved instantly, but also a force was added to him. He completely subconsciously landed on his left foot, another sliding step, and the hand was swung away. The épée rotated along with the body, and it reached Wei Hua's side and rear. Wei Hua used his shield to block Long Kong Kong's wooden sword. He was very aware of his own strength, and he had already held the shield and said, nice change of direction, crack. The back of his head hurt, his eyes went dark, and the head teacher fell to the ground. That leaf in the distance suddenly opened his eyes wide. Use your strength. This video will end here.